Okay. Hey there, you! I am sportscaster Mike Erickson, actual expert of KRDN Channel News 8. Alongside me is Professor Derek McNally, who is also an expert. Reason why? Because he has a beard. Why else? Expert of all things WWE. So, first things up, what should we talk about, Professor?
Well, for my first show that we're going to come in and talk about, I want to talk about CM Punk. And he's been champion for a year now. And he started the year, actually started the championship reign last year as a face. Mm-hmm. And he went through WrestleMania as a face, turned heel over the late summer, early fall, and has been a heel since. And he's been teaming with Paul Heyman. And one of the things I want to talk about is how effective do you think the heel turn was? Do you think he's been a heel in the sense that he's still been the same CM Punk character, just a heel version, or what I thought was when he turned heel was he's become the archetypical WWE heel in that he's become basically a weenie and he is a coward and he likes to hit from behind and all these other things. And he's not the same CM Punk, even though he's just a heel version. So, what do you think about CM Punk?
Well, I do think it was neat to see CM Punk turn heel. I think that was kind of a neat move to do. Although I am kind of disappointed because he's a little bit different character. He doesn't talk. I mean, he still talks on the microphone, but it's not the same as what he used to do. He's not doing the same thing that made him famous. Like when he was so popular, people just loved him. He'd break the fourth wall. He's not really doing that a whole lot anymore. He's kind of more of a classic heel. So because of that, I'd almost rather see him do a face turn just so he could go back and get those cheers and break the fourth wall. The other thing with that heel turn is it only happened, I think, because John Cena wouldn't do a heel turn. And because of that, CM Punk had to do the heel turn. And I think as a heel, he wasn't getting a lot of heat until he hit the other fan, and then now I think he's getting more heat. And I think that's the main thing, what all heels need to focus on is how much heat can they draw. And I think in that respect, CM Punk is doing fine. I think he is drawing heat. But I just would prefer the CM Punk where he breaks the fourth wall and he's kind of like the voice of the voiceless. He speaks for the other WWE fans that WWE seems not to hear.
I agree with you. I think I'm a Paul Heyman guy, and I love Paul Heyman. I think he's got a mind for the business that few others can see it from, and I think WWE really likes to take advantage of Paul Heyman's ability to draw heat. And they kind of decided when they brought him back with Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar, only had a select number of dates that he was going to appear in WWE television, but they wanted to hang on to Paul Heyman. They're like, well, what can we do with him? Because he came in with Brock Lesnar, they don't like him. Paul Heyman in WWE has always been a heel. He's never been anything else. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because there's still, the handful of ECW chants that you hear every so once in a while. And so, there's a handful of those smart fans that know exactly what Paul Heyman is about. But the rest of them, everybody, he draws heat like you wouldn't believe. Mm-hmm. And I think they wanted to keep him around. And what better way to solidify CM Punk's heel turn than making him his manager, or as he likes to call him, his... I guess, he's just his manager. They had a special term for it, but I don't remember what it was. So, but
I think the most interesting thing as CM Punk is that we know he's going to keep the belt till the Royal Rumble when he fights The Rock. The most interesting thing is to see how he keeps the belt, because I don't think he has a clean win since he turned heel. Has he? I don't think he has.
Not to my knowledge, at least not in any major championship matches.
And so that's what makes it good heel, even though really CM Punk is good enough to win without that heel turn, but it is a classic wrestling trope that once you turn heel, you have to suck.
Everyone remembers Triple H when he made his first, he'd been heel for a long time and face and heel. When he became the cerebral stress and he became, the Game and he was a heel then, he still beat a lot of the faces cleanly, guys like Rock cleanly. not always. He beat Mick Foley cleanly. And, I mean, granted, it was Hell in a Cell, so there were no rules. But
Right.
he technically beat Mick Foley cleanly and retired him. But for a little bit. So, I mean, there's this aura that all the WWE heels have to be, cheaters, and that's okay because it draws heat, but there's this thing where they can't win cleanly, and no one can win cleanly. And I think a good heel is one that has a couple of clean wins under his belt and actually threatens the faces, and that makes the when the face does win more important.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I think now that CM Punk's been a heel, if he and it's kind of a bummer because they're going to potentially waste what could be a huge win for a face to beat the champion. They're basically going to blow it on The Rock, who is, we already know what The Rock's all about. He's been there for, off and on forever, and before that he was, he's The Rock. He does what The Rock does. So
absolutely,
yeah. So I think WWE they're smart in it that it will draw money, but at the same time they're wasting a huge opportunity which could elevate larger guy, the guys that are right on the threshold, especially like Ryback. Ryback is definitely there, and even Dolph Ziggler, or even Miz now, who's was at the top tier and now got kind of undercut, and he just made a face turn recently. All those guys could have benefited from beating a heel CM Punk, and
right.
basically, especially after he'd been champion for so long. So I think they're kind of wasting it on The Rock, but they will make money with The Rock there. So that's kind of where that goes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's still a business where they need to make the moolah, the dollar. That's what speaks. And so because of that, they'll do booking and things that don't seem so smart. Like they did that with Hulk Hogan, I believe it was at WrestleMania 9. They had him come in and win the belt from Yokozuna. I don't think it was a good business decision, but it did draw some money that Hulk Hogan had the belt that little bit longer. But then after that, not too long after that, Hogan went to WCW, and then where did everybody go? WCW. So sometimes people follow the main guy rather than a company, which to me is weird. So anyway, getting back, my point is, with The Rock as their guy, they're able to draw in money and stuff, even though I don't completely agree with it. Like, if The Rock was to go to another wrestling company, he may be able to draw a lot, or that wrestling company. So maybe WWE thinks they need to keep The Rock happy, or else. I'm not sure what that complete thought is, other than the dollar.
There is definitely, as we mentioned him earlier in Brock Lesnar. He still has dates going forward towards WrestleMania. There's a lot of speculation as to what part he will play going into WrestleMania. A lot of the rumor right now seems to be Rock and CM Punk, but I've also heard the rumor that Rock and Brock Lesnar are going to wrestle. So I mean, it's kind of up in the air, but I think right now, as of it's a little ways off yet, but right now at Royal Rumble it looks like it's going to be Rock and Punk. So
yeah, and that will be an interesting match. And at that point, I don't know who's going to win, but maybe leading up to it, I'll know more. And whatever I say is right, because expert. And should we talk about any tag teams now? Because we talked about the main champion. So what about the tag team division that came back? They came back, ladies and gentlemen. Tag team, it's the tag team.
Yes, I know one of the things that Jim Ross has been talking about on his blog a lot lately is how his tag teams are back, and we'd like to see that the tag teams division is still there and still relevant. My whole thing is it going to last? And I would like to say yes, because right now the tag team champions Kane and Daniel Bryan are the most entertaining thing going on in WWE right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, even at times more so than CM Punk. Even Kane and Daniel Bryan are the reason why I'm tuning in, and I keep my DVR on play instead of fast forward. So Kane and Daniel Bryan, I think them holding the tag team belts as long as they can is also important. Much in the same way that CM Punk holding the belt for as long as he did is important. Because when a couple of years back they had tag teams win the tag team belts all the time on Velocity, or you'd hear about them winning in a house show, and to me that's fine, and really you can do that sparingly, but nowadays you can't. If you want to make something relevant, you have to make it relevant. Absolutely. And so much like the CM Punk holding the belt, the WWE Championship for a year, the longer Kane and Daniel Bryan hold on to the belts, the more they mean, the tag team champions, and the more it'll mean when someone beats them. So and everyone's saying how the tag team division's back. Well, it is. It's kind of it's there. It's not Heart Foundation good yet. Of course, early '90s,
right?
When tag teams were just, they were some of the main events, over the World Heavyweight Championship matches. So I know in the current WWE model it won't go back to that way. But I think looking at the teams and looking like the guys like Sin Cara and Rey Mysterio, the guys, especially Rey Mysterio, he doesn't need to win any more championships. He's already proven that he's one of the best of all time. Right. And I think it's awesome that him and Sin Cara are a tag team. That was when Sin Cara first showed up in the first thing I said in my mind is him and Rey Mysterio have to be a team at some point. They just have to be. Absolutely. That and I would like to see a rivalry, but I don't think the WWE will allow two faces to have a rivalry because I don't see either of them being heels anytime soon, if at all ever. But so you have that as a tag team, and then you have my new favorite tag team, Rhodes Scholars, Cody Rhodes and Damian Sandow. Before they were a team, Cody Rhodes was kind of fluttering in the mid-card, IC belt. That was great for him. I liked what he was doing with the IC championship. And Damian Sandow was kind of new on the scene. He was kind of just floating there. And that seems to be a problem that he has. His guys are just kind of floating everywhere. So now they seem like, well, let's take all the guys that are floating everywhere and put them in a tag team. That's 3-man band for you. They're, I could see those three guys, two of those three guys at some point. Maybe they'll go with the Freebird rule, or two of them can defend the championship at some point in the future. But I see them winning the tag team belts in the future. I see Rhodes Scholars obviously winning the championship, and I see, and they need to elevate guys like Primo and Epico to be able to challenge. And the primetime players as well. Those guys need to be elevated just a bit so that they can be seen as a challenge to the guys like Kane and Daniel Bryan and Rhodes Scholars. But I would like to see Rhodes Scholars pick up the belt soon, but not too soon, because like I said, I want to see Kane and Daniel Bryan make the tag team champions mean more.
Absolutely. I agree with the professor, as he is an expert. And I don't think I would have anything more to add. That's kind of close to what I would think. It is nice to see the tag teams move forward. I think it's also nice, like the professor said, that these take people that were floundering and make them into more people, give them more star power. And so these people, hopefully, when they leave the tag team, because that almost always is inevitable. So they always leave the tag team. Hopefully, the Daniel Bryans or Cody Rhodes or even Damian Sandow. Hopefully, these people are pushed more to the main event, because that's really what this should be used for.
Yeah. Another thing is WWE likes to make tag team matches all the time, but never with tag teams. They're always, they won't hesitate to throw Dolph Ziggler and Alberto Del Rio into a tag team match against John Cena and whoever. They'll have, and this is something that WWE has done since as long as I can remember, since I started watching. They have all these tag team matches between the main event people, but those don't even really mean anything. They're just tag team matches to see if two guys can coexist. And so, when you put two guys in the ring that do coexist, yeah, you can make tag team matches mean something once again.
Absolutely. And I am excited about that. Maybe we should move along to Mr. Money. Now, Dolph Ziggler has won Money in the Bank and so far has not cashed it in, with much speculation as to when he would do this. Many thought he was going to do this at Hell in a Cell, at Survivor Series. He has yet to do it. My thought is maybe Duddy's thinking is that he did not do this yet because he doesn't have enough star power, so if he won the championship, it wouldn't be as believable. Even though I know just that sentence opens up a whole can of worms that I do not want to get into. I just want to talk about Dolph Ziggler at this moment and kind of think of where he's going, what he's doing, and just what is your take on that, Mr. Professor?
Well, I really like Dolph Ziggler. And there's been with Paul Heyman and CM Punk and Vicky and Dolph Ziggler. I'm two things that I really like about both of them is they both have, well, before Vicky became the supervising manager, whatever that is. It's just basically a fancy word for interim GM, but they were managers, and that's two things that we haven't seen in a long time. And just like Paul Heyman knows to get heat, Vicky Guerrero knows how to get heat. And
Absolutely.
Dolph Ziggler, it has been compared by most everybody in the business that he's like Kurt Hennig, and he's very reminiscent of Kurt Hennig. I will continue that trend. He reminds me very much of Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect.
Absolutely, yes.
But at the same time, he's gone on and said that he doesn't want to be anybody. He doesn't want to be reminiscent of anybody. The only person he wants to be is Dolph Ziggler, and I absolutely admire that. So yeah, that being said, I would like to see him do more stuff that is Dolph Ziggler like, and that is, I don't think he's recently gotten into this feud with John Cena and AJ and that whole thing, and that storyline's kind of but before that he's been kind of just like, when's he going to cash it in, and that was kind of the only question surrounding him, and that's the importance. I'm trying to put the storyline that's happening with him and John Cena kind of into the back burner and bring forward the fact that he's wrestling John Cena, or he's going to be in a feud with John Cena, because regardless of the storyline, no matter how bad it ends up being, because right now it's pretty bad, but regardless of how bad it ends up being, there's there's matches down the line between the two, obviously. Most recent episode of Raw, Dolph Ziggler attacked John Cena from behind. John Cena's not going to let that stand. John Cena, he can win, but I think some point Dolph Ziggler needs it, preferably a pay-per-view, but it can be anywhere. Dolph Ziggler needs to get a clean win against John Cena, even if it's a little bit marred by controversy. That's okay, but he needs to get a clean win, because if John Cena continues his Superman role, Dolph Ziggler can only go down from losing to Cena, and the feud of Cena it could be make it or break it with him as a Money in the Bank, as a potential world heavyweight champion. If he can be seen to be able to beat John Cena, people won't have a hard time seeing him be world heavyweight champion.
Yes. Now, if you continue to have John Cena win nonstop, that was okay. I'm not saying it was the best idea, but that was okay. As a new face of the WWE company, as the new face of your company, that was okay to have that. But going forward, you have to have people beat John Cena. And the reason why is because if you don't, you're going to end up the same as what happened in WCW, where Kevin Nash is at the top, Hulk Hogan's at the top again, and it doesn't matter who else you try to have come up, because there's just this thing they keep hitting, and they can't get over that. So your company then stays right there because no one's willing to sell or put anybody over. So if you have John Cena continue this, I think this is what's going to happen to WWE. And we're starting to see this happen in WWE. Well, we've been seeing this happen in WWE. We're starting to see this move to get a little bit higher, but it hasn't gotten much higher. It's just this lid is on it. And so if you want to remove that lid, I think you're going to have John Cena lose to Dolph Ziggler, just as you had said. Because if John Cena's getting to that point where he needs to start slowing down, he needs to start passing things off to other guys, and I am slowly seeing that happen, but I think they could do better with that. Like it kind of happened with Ryback, where he let Ryback have the match at Hell in a Cell, and also Ryback and John Cena were shown not to be getting along, and so that kind of happened a little bit with Ryback, but I think it could continue to happen better, because I know John Cena lost to The Rock, but The Rock is already a huge star, and he's already over, so it really doesn't help at all. That'd be like John Cena losing to Hulk Hogan. It's not going to help the lid.
Yeah, absolutely. John Cena is I mean, not to say that John Cena's done with or over the hill or anything like Hogan, Rock, and those other guys.
Yeah.
He's simply at the point in his career he doesn't gain anything from being champion. He really doesn't. And especially with going back to a guy like Dolph Ziggler, he has everything to gain by being a champion. And you can count his 15 minutes or whatever it was where he did win it. But I mean, that was kind of like just poor booking, really. But yeah, when Dolph Ziggler does win it, he needs to do it. He needs to climb over Cena. And Cena can, I think, at this point, I know he's WWE's biggest merchandise draw. He's the one that's probably making the company the most money. I think it's time that he can lose and not lose any steam. Mm-hmm. I really think that Cena has nothing to lose by losing, and he has nothing more to gain. In terms of winning all the time, it's kind of like the boring invincible hero. Not everybody likes Superman for that reason.
Right.
So yeah, I think Ziggler has everything to prove against John Cena. They'll probably book it so John Cena beats the hell out of him. But yeah, if Ziggler can get in a win here or there, preferably a major match and at a major pay-per-view like Rumble, or even just win cleanly. At this point with Duddy, I would take a dirty win, a dusty finish. But I would like to see him win cleanly. So,
right. Any last thoughts with Dolph Ziggler before we move on to our last and main topic of today?
Yeah, Dolph Ziggler is the future of the company, and WWE would be foolish to not let him shine. So,
good point. On to the next and last thing. Let us discuss Randy Orton. Now, let me say, when this guy first came in, I thought he was a dork. I didn't know his dad. I didn't know his grandpa. He was a dork. I've done some research, and my understanding is Randy Orton is actually better than his grandpa and better than his dad. Now, does that mean a whole lot moving forward? Well, it could. Randy Orton has pulled off some good matches that I have been impressed by. The thing I like about Randy Orton as of late is that I believe he has in-ring psychology. And in the ring, he can be pretty good when he doesn't just want to do his kicks and stomps. When he actually wants to do some more wrestling moves, he can pull off just about anything he wants to. The guy's very talented. And he also has that in-ring psychology, like when he comes down to the ring, it looks like he's doing nothing, but he has that stare, that Jake the Snake had that stare. And that's what I appreciate about this guy. He's a face right now, but there has been some rumors about him being tired of being the face, being tired of being that good guy that gets the cheers, that he wants to be that heel again, that heel that made us hate him, that made us think, gosh, why can you have a character be a legend killer? That's the stupidest thing ever. He wants that heel turn again, and so far I don't think WWE has listened to him, but I don't know if they will maybe in the future. Now, Professor, let's get your thoughts on Randy Orton.
Well, I'll preface this by saying that Randy Orton's best work has always been when he's a heel. I remember that famous feud he had with Triple H, where Triple H attacked him in his home. That was one of the best things I think I've ever seen in recent WWE programming, as in post Attitude Era. But yeah, he's kind of been in this face limbo that I've referred to, where he's there, he's at the top of the card, and he's wrestling other top of the card guys like Alberto Del Rio, but they don't really mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
I know take the most recent feud with Alberto Del Rio as evidence. The whole premise seemed to me that they just didn't like each other because Alberto Del Rio wanted to be the new Apex Predator, and that can make the 5-year-old in the crowd go, yeah, all right, go Randy Orton, show him who's boss. But even the 10-year-olds that WWE is trying to go after, there's not a lot of substance there, and they were kind of there for number one contender matches. I know Big Show and Sheamus are still the two top guys on, I guess what could be considered the world heavyweight scene, but but they're not, like, Randy Orton's won 10, 11 titles now. He doesn't really need to win it. Alberto Del Rio still kind of does, and they're both at the top, but there was no real. They hated each other, I guess, as best as creative could come up with them, but there was nothing really felt on the line. Mm-hmm. And Randy, and this is not the first time. Randy Orton's kind of been there for a while now. He's kind of, showing up at the title picture whenever there's a multi-man championship match, or number one contenders. He's kind of there, but he hasn't been. He's not there because I think WWE realizes that he has nothing more to gain from being a champion, which he doesn't. He's very much in the same boat as John Cena. As a face, he's just kind of floating along, and he's kind of taking on other guys like Alberto Del Rio, who are also just kind of floating along. Although Alberto Del Rio, I could see he's going to be in the title picture, for a while to come. He'll be a champion within a year, I would venture to guess, without question. So there is a rumor going around that Randy Orton wants to become a heel, and I think WWE would be very foolish to not take him up on this. First of all, WWE is very shallow right now on heels. Dolph Ziggler and CM Punk are basically the two top heels. Mm-hmm. I guess Big Show too. But after that, you have to kind of dig a little bit harder to find someone. I mean, Miz just turned face. Other than that, you're going to go to probably next major heel is probably going to be like Rose Scholar. So
right.
So heels are definitely in short supply, especially good heels. And Randy Orton's best stuff, as I said, is when he's a heel. And nothing would please me more than to see him turn heel, because I think as a face, he's become kind of stale. And he's kind of cutting the same promos all the time. He's not really doing anything. And I think if he becomes heel, it'll be, first of all, there's a lot of the kids like him. Mm-hmm. It'll be a shocking swerve for them for sure. And it gives him a chance to be that ruthless Apex Predator guy who can dominate. And going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, CM Punk being a scared heel, and as opposed to a really awesome tough heel, Randy Orton would be a really awesome tough heel. Mm-hmm. So I think WWE would be wise to turn him heel. I think he has a lot to benefit, and as does the talent pool. They're short on heels right now.
Mm-hmm. And as Miz turned heel, as you said, Miz turned face. Miz turned face, as you had said. Maybe that means WWE is looking to turn him heel. Maybe I know that they are looking to tweak things, and you can tell because Randy Orton, you can kind of tell he's lost a little bit of passion that he's had, because he wants to turn heel so bad, and so he's kind of plateaued as the face. He's kind of like, okay, this is all I'm going to do. And so I think the heel turn would give him his passion back, and when a wrestler has passion, That's when you put the butts in the seats.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that would be my last 2 cents on that. Do you have anything more to add, Professor?
Not right now, no. I think we covered all the stuff that we wanted to cover. As time goes forward, I would like to continue to join you on your show and talk about some select things as WWE progresses towards WrestleMania. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the storyline. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for joining me. For all of you out there, hope you had a crappy time. Don't tune in again, because I'm smart. Goodbye.